come out, and when you leave the room, you'll see that we just, over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat. And you'll be seeing that, and you'll be reading about that. It just happened moments ago, and our great general, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who's been so incredible, including what took place in Iran, knocking out potential nuclear power for a long time to come. I think within a month they would have had it if we didn't do what we did. But he gave us a little bit of a briefing, and you'll see. And there's more where that came from. We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in for a long time. And we just, these came out of Venezuela and coming out very heavily from Venezuela. A lot of things are coming out of Venezuela. So we took it out, and you'll get to see that after this meeting is over.
It's not just the country, but the entire Caribbean basin. These particular drugs were probably headed to Trinidad or some other country in the Caribbean, at which point they just contribute to the instability these countries are facing. So the president's been very clear that he's going to use the full power of America and the full might of the United States to take on and eradicate these drug cartels, no matter where they're operating from and no matter how long they've been able to act with impunity. Those days are over. This is a counter-drug operation. We're going to take on drug cartels wherever they are and wherever they're operating against the interests of the United States. The president's top obligation is to secure the national interest and the national security of our people. I know of no president that means that more than this one, our president now, President Trump. And so, I'm not.
Good evening, TNT family. Welcome back to Yellow's the Code program on UNC USA. We have some interesting developments taking place outside our waters there between Trinidad and Venezuela, where the U.S. has just taken on a boat that's supposedly transporting drugs. And, the situation is getting real. We have with us tonight Mr. Suman Singh, and as usual, our other friends will join us later on the program. So, Mr. Singh, I want to welcome you to UNC USA. And, we are seeing the reality of things happening where we have some real enforcement dealing with the drug trafficking situation with the U.S. presence in our Caribbean waters. So I want to welcome you back to the program, and let's hear your views on things there for a little bit.
Well, thank you, Gary, and good evening to all our listeners joining us on the various social media platforms. We welcome you. Hey, Gary, exactly as you're saying, there's a lot of activity going on in the Gulf and the areas, the seas of the Southern Caribbean, where the U.S. had literally put out an armada or flotilla of boats and accompanying gunfire with it, and soldiers as well. I don't know how real it is, but it comes under a pretext of, narco terrorism. So I guess with that phrase, you're looking basically at the president of Venezuela, Mr. Maduro, who has been branded a narco terrorist by the U.S. and a $50 million, reward on his head has been placed. So I guess today we saw the first taste of this type of activity where they will literally shut out one of their speedboats carrying, or as it's said, that it's carrying a lot of drugs headed towards other Caribbean islands, or may find itself to the U.S. So I guess they're taking, it's a good move in my opinion. They're taking the fight basically to the source, rather than it getting into one of the islands for transshipment. So that's good, and I feel that's a good move. But Gary, I don't know if you saw the newspaper yesterday. It says that the number of homicides for this past month of August was 22, which has been the lowest in almost 9.5 years. So with that in mind, one wonders whether, the Southern Command, when they were putting together all the logistics in place since last month, whether that had an impact on our homicide rate for the last month. That, along with the SOE, it could very well be that some of the drug dealers and so on are lying low, or has gone into some sort of hiding, or basically not traversing the open seas as he used to prior to this flotilla in the Southern Caribbean. So I think that when combined with the state of emergency and the presence of the U.S. Southern Command targeting narco-terrorism, including the movement of drugs and so on, probably that played a role into our homicide rate being the lowest in 9.5 years. I don't know what your opinion on that is, but
First of all, I want to congratulate our Prime Minister in her collaboration with the United States on this venture. And whatever context they may want to twist this is a very important decision, a necessary decision in the amount of criminal activity we've been succumbed with, and overwhelmed. The country has been overwhelmed with whether it's murders on our streets, the drugs flowing in and out of our country, you name it. And for the last 10 years, we have seen the effects of that. And I mean, most of our, in fact, at one point, all our Coast Guard vessels were down under the previous administration,
no diesel,
the
no
Rowley
diesel.
Chot Young administration, right?
Yeah, they
And
had
we had more
no
talk,
diesel.
more money spent. That money still cannot be accounted for, and we don't see. And I mean, within the short, this is what, going into 4 months, basically,
Yeah.
that we in government, and we are already seeing tremendous results, whether in partnership with the U.S. or within our country with our forces there. So we've seen some action. There's a lot more to be done, with which I would like to see more patrolling and visible patrolling and response from the police. But I think quite a bit already done, and in order to maintain, we must maintain consistency. We cannot run hot and cold with fighting crime. There must be consistency with the patrolling. Our response must be swift. This is how we send a clear message to the criminals, and they are going. We must prepare ourselves to defend ourselves because they are not going to back down. This is big money, and they're going to look to remove those who are causing them to lose money. And there have already been some threats, and I'm hearing, within the grapevine, there's quite a bit of threats going on. These guys plan to act up. So we have to maintain the course, and we need that backup from the US, and whether it's US, UK, Canada, or whoever we can get from, we need all that support,
Yes, quite right, quite right. But I think the state of emergency played and is playing a role in that regard. It's sort of stymieing the free movement, especially of that element, that crime element, that along with a lot more police presence in the various communities. It's,
Well,
I
the
mean,
state of emergency, for one, in this particular state of emergency, is not a curfew, but it gives you the police the liberty to search without a warrant,
yes,
and
correct.
that is working on our advantage there.
Yes, that's what I say. A state of emergency specifically targeting the security interest of the state. It's not a curfew. You're free to move, go anywhere, party, go to fest, go to limes and so on. But it gives the police the ability to search, with reason, anybody or any mo- moving target, in this case where the criminals moving their cars in the wee hours of the morning or late in the night. So that has, I think, played a significant role. But one must remember that this only came about because the threats that were being posed on a couple of the senior heads in both in government and in the police service and prison services. The security forces themselves were under threat. So this is a good sign. It offers, some hope, and it's definitely bearing some fruits at this point in time. I would like to see that the legal aspect of it comes on board as quickly as possible and take these things to the next level. Meaning that the police can only do so much, and if the legal system is not there to back this thing up, then it's going to we only will end up with a situation where we have more suspects are in the jail awaiting the trial, and the backlog continues. So then again, nobody gets prosecuted 5, 10, 20 years down the road. So that's one of the legal aspect has to accompany a system like this to really make it effective and give it teeth. So
That's something we definitely have to work uh, on
hand in hand,
in
yeah.
several aspects, because we do have members of the legal system on the payroll of the criminal syndicate,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And we have people in place still to destroy evidence and to derail the prosecution. So there is quite a bit of things that we just got. We didn't even scratch the surface yet with the amount of work that has to be done. So this is how far the PNM took us underground. We're not even on the ground. We're underground with the level that the PNM has took us. They took us into a very deep ditch. So we have to dig ourselves out of the ditch before we can reach ground. So I want people to understand that everything that the government promised is intended to be done, but you have to understand the distance the government is traveling from. We're not traveling from the ground. We are traveling from underground at this point. And that's with
Absolutely.
our economy, with the restructuring of the justice system, restructuring government to work for you, to eliminate the hassle. There's a lot to be done, a lot to be done. So I would like, to at least ask people to be a little patient in dealing, with understanding that what we are dealing with. There's a lot of misinformation out there that is trying to mislead people and get people to rile up, but they're not talking about the people who sucked out the bigger portion of the money. Especially with the situation with CPEP. And in fact, I just saw another article with Ken Ali there. That what he was talking about. There's another exposure that Ken Ali's coming back out with. I'm hoping to get back Ken here so that
But
we can discuss some of these
yeah,
things.
yeah, and that's why I'm saying, and that we've been always exposing this session after session as where is the media in all of this thing, boy? They seem to have pip all along, and they pushing their own agenda. Is the media is a big part of the PNM cult. So
The media was got dumbfounded for some reason. And
yeah,
according to our
yeah,
prime minister, they had some laryngitis, I guess.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
They had,
but they have voice. They have voice to create disturbance and try to mislead the population. You see those articles from the Express and various news media, and they more seem to be covering the PNM than the actual government. In the truth and facts of what the government is doing. You know.
well, not really covering up the shortcomings that
Yeah.
we experience under the PNM government. Because
Yeah.
I can't only I saw it in the Sunshine newspaper today, but you know, I don't know much circulation they have, but these are the things that all three major newspapers should be highlighting if they so had the country at heart, because it's showing that the PNM ministers how they all benefited on the CPEP with their various contracts. If not they and their friends and family and so on. They literally raped the damn country of resources, getting staff who
Yeah, and
neglect them.
trying to make mockery of Mrs. Bisesa as to where she's going to find the money.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they're not focusing on where the money went initially. Where, how did it reach here?
They're creating a diversion. They're
Yeah,
creating a diversion.
exactly
Yeah.
the point. They created a diversion just to make sure that this serious issue about government ministers with contracts or their friends and family
Yeah,
who
here it is.
benefited.
Several costly housing development corporation contracts were extended between
Hmm.
April 28th, general election, and August 18th.
Yep,
Installation of a new board of directors.
correct. And yesterday I read in the newspaper where a lot of these senior officers who were staying in these high price HTC units have failed to make payments on their mortgages. And you're talking about $1 million properties. In fact, I read about one person, a big PNM financer, and someone up in the party, in the hierarchy of the party, was owing up to $2 million in back payments.
Welcome, Nadira, and see Lindsay Hero is here. I think you know Lindsay, right, Suman?
I think we spoke the guy from Shogunas, schoolmate.
Oh no, no, that's somebody different. Not my schoolmate. I think Lindsay is either you know his father or you know him. I think something like that. Anyway, so welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us and for your loyal support. Go ahead, Mr. Singh.
Yeah, so I see where they were owing a lot of back rents, and none of it has been collected. And others were saying one guy owes up $2 million. Yeah, it was in Victoria Keys and Diego Martin, a posh, very posh, apartment complex, which was built by the UNC, but with which they never got around to filling it. So these apartments were filled after 2015. So a lot of friends and family got privileges to own these apartments. And here is it, this particular PNM Hefe is owing more than $2 million in back rent. To tell you what's the scandalous nature of these contracts. So I'm not, and you know what? None of these things appearing in any of the three major newspaper, and this is what is confusing. Neither in the television, TTT, CNC, TV6, none of the newspaper, none of the mass media, whether it's the visual or the print media, nothing is being highlighted on these issues. But you might quicker find something to divert the public's attention to say, well, where is the prime minister going to get money from and all these things? How are they going to fulfill their promises from the election. You get in this. This is the type of talk and the jargon which you're hearing, but nothing about investigative reporting to determine and find out where the money went and how did we reach or arrive at this sorry state in our economy. You know, so it's a shame when the press has such an important role to educate and inform the public, and keep things in the front burner so that it holds the government into some sort of accountability. But this has never, materialized as far as the PNM goes. One thing which I'm awaiting is the Auditor General's report whenever that is laid in Parliament. I'm very excited about that aspect of it. Let's see what's going to be the turnout, because even the former Minister of Finance is preaching the template that the country is broke. Mr. Imbert is saying the country is broke, and
Well, he has to tell us how the country got broke
how
under
is
his
it,
watch,
how is how
because he
did he
can't give
get?
account of a lot of money up to now.
Yeah, that's what I say. I want to know. I'm very excited to see what's going to transpire out of the Auditor General's report for 2024. And because the $3 billion which is missing, somewhere somebody has to, come forth and say where it's gone. Because I will really, really like to see a couple of these senior persons who have been responsible for these things, generally should come and be prosecuted for these crimes, because that's a lot of money, man. That's $3 billion, and you cannot account for it. And don't talk the amount of smaller figures. And when I say smaller figures in the amount of millions, not smaller meaning thousands of dollars. It's millions of dollars. So all these things has to, be coming into light. But then again, there's no highlighting of these things in the press. It's very dormant, very silent. The strong pro-PNM agenda is very well active and kicking. But anything pertaining to development and the betterment of the country, that is, nothing is being said of that initiative. So let's wait and see what comes out of this. I think one of the more pressing issues is the budget, the preparation of the budget, which is due early next month, maybe 1st or 2nd of October, because the financial year ends at the end of this month. So that in itself is a tedious process, and I hope we can get some clarity as to the financial situation of the country. I don't think they have been able to get an assessment or true reflection of how much money is in the national balance sheet. What is the current status of it? And what's the breakdown of the expenditure and the debt servicing, and how much is foreign debt versus local debt. Foreign debt meaning the amount to be paid in US dollars of foreign currency, and how much of it is in local currency. And so on, this breakdown of these long-term liabilities, I don't know. I have not seen any figures to show, to reflect upon. So we don't know. Basically, that's what it is. After 4 months, we still don't know what is the current state financially of this economy. So I don't know if anyone has any views on that or have heard anything subsequent to what I just said, please let me know. But I have not seen or heard anything about that.
Well, I guess they are, they are conducting their investigations and putting their things together. I am sure they're going to come very strong in the parliament, to bring the information forward and where we heading at and what they have to deal with. You're going to get more of that information when parliament starts. I'm sure that Dave Tanko will be bringing it into the face of Parliament, but
I
to
know.
explain himself, you know, as to where the money was spent, and things like that, with the amount of, investigation that has to take place, I mean, I'm sure we have quite a bit to get done, because it's 10 years, and in fact, we should go back for more than 10 years.
Yeah, not, not only that. I mean, according to the Honorable Prime Minister, Caribbean Airlines have not done an audited report for the past 9 years.
But
And
most of them, you finding that same thing happening right throughout.
yeah, but I want to ask the question why. And again, you see, it comes back to the press. If the press was so vigilant and was so people oriented, and trying to educate the people and say, hey, you know what, every year this is the situation, it has increased or decreased as we move forward. But nothing. Remember, Gary, these corporations, they are duty bound. At the end of their financial year, they prepare what's called an external audit, which means that they examine the expenditure and the income of that entity over the year and see, they can raise flags and say, hey, why is this so? Why we should not have done these expenses? Can you show me where the money went and so on? But none of these things were done. That means the boards of all these corporations should really be held responsible for the situation which we find ourselves. And yet every year after year after year after year, they have budgets allocated to these entities. You know, but I was particularly interested in Caribbean Airlines. The Prime Minister said that there is an accounting department in Caribbean Airlines that has 86 persons. 86 persons to what? Count a loss? If the company ain't making a profit, but you require 86 persons to show that you're making a loss, and yet they were not fulfilling their fiduciary duty of getting an external audit report at the end of every single year. So can you imagine what was going on there? Similar things in the ADB bank, as what I had mentioned before, similar situation. There has been little or no or zero accountability, how funds were dispersed, how many, like in the case of ADB, how many farmers got loans, who were the farmers, whether bona fide farmers or supporters or friends and family of the PNM, and if at all any monies were paid back, you know. So one wonders what the heck was going on during this 9.5 years of mismanagement, and no one's, is being held accountable as to the proceedings of our, and I say our meaning the people's money. It's just mind-boggling. Yeah, I don't know anything.
It's definitely. I'm trying to pull up some pictures here from Kenali, and hold on one second. Let me see if I can add it. So let's see here.
I mean, the one where the PNM ministers, how many contracts they got.
Yeah. Hold on a second. I'm trying to load it here. One
Okay,
second.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So I mean, it's very disturbing.
Yeah, it's written very small, so I guess unless you can expand the figures a little bit. And these contracts have been became effective after the election, right?
Exactly. Between the 28th and after the election. So they went ahead issuing things. They were trying to show us what they're going to do. Typical PNM, right?
Yes. Then they again probably got what shot with their pants down because they thought they was going to win the election hands down. So that's why they
Well,
went
yeah.
on.
Well, I think they could have, and they even wouldn't. They were so damn bold faced that they're trying to do what they want to show us they're going to do it, and then they're trying to instigate the people, making them think like they was getting such a big money when they run away the bigger part of the money.
Yeah, well, naturally, in cases like this, it means that the whatever monies that was supposed to go towards the program, towards benefiting the people who work in these agencies, were not filtering down. It was filtering into the pockets of the contractors, the guys who had the contracts. So I guess again, it comes back to the friends and family and the PNM ministers and so on. They were the ones who were ripping off the treasury in this regard, and with all these amount of gold scams. So where the monies for the gold scams? Where did that went? I'm
Yeah,
asking. Where's the question? Okay, let's say
that's a good question.
my gang. Let's say I have a gang. I'm a contractor, a ghost contractor. Okay, assess. Let's say that's the name of the company, or that's the contractor name, and he has a ghost gang of 20. Okay, are you hearing? I came back, I joined back, Gary. So are you hearing it at all? Hello? Yes, I'm back. Hello? Hello. Hello.
How about now, Mr. Singh? Are you hearing me?
Yeah. I'm here. Came back a while ago.
Yeah, somehow we were losing transmission. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess just before the call dropped, we were focusing on where is that money sitting? These ghost gangs' money, where are they sitting? I mean, from my banking knowledge, ghost gangs are basically ghost employees. So there's no withdrawal of those monies. So that lump sum of money which is deposited into the bank accounts of the contractors who will hire. But if there are no hirers, if they are ghost hirees, that money is deposited every month into friends, families, and acquaintances of ministers and so on. So can you imagine if a small gang, let's say 20 persons, you have basically 40 to 50,000 being deposited every fortnight. That can, for the month can be up to 100,000. So yeah, 1.2 million. Where is that money going? Where is that money sitting? And that's my
Okay, thank you for Nadira for letting us know. We had a little, I don't know, some interference with the internet there, but I think we're doing okay. Let us know if there's any issue going forward. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Singh.
yeah. So that's my concern. Again, where is the press in all of this thing, boy? Where is the press? Where is the people who have to looking after the people's interests, man? It's shocking. It's frightening to see the amount of carnage that has been perpetrated on the population. Now, in a scenario like that, you can't blame the people or the workers. You can't, because they are like pawns in all of this. They look for 10 days, a week, a month, or a month or so. Most of them are on the low end of the economic ladder, so it's more a social program, basically. And these are the people who are suffering the most. Let's not fool ourselves. They are the ones who feeling the impact. And here is it, that all these large sums of monies that were paid to the contractors, where is it? Why the people did not benefit from the monies which were allocated for the various programs, CPEP, URP, the reforestation projects, and so on. There was ghost gangs. Repeat, gangs, not one gang, ghost gangs in all of these things. So there is a lot of theft of monies that occurred, along with agencies, a lot of state agencies as well, even like Caribbean Airlines and so on, who were not unable to file their external auditors reports. So no one knows the financial situation of these companies. Every year, what happens? They will get the government subvention at the beginning of the year, just bail them out. So the government is always bailing out these entities, bailing them out, bailing them out, bailing them out.
I mean, they set us up so badly. I mean, you know, they raped the treasury and they put us in so many holes that you know that we got to really deal with.
You know, and I see the things like I don't know if you're following, because I work in the Ministry of Education for a number of years, and I can tell you the school repair program, there was a lot, it was followed a similar trend. And only this year perhaps is the only year in the history of Trinidad where the ministry was able to conclude a lot of school repairs on time, and they did what they have to do. I guess that's why they had an extra week's holiday, but the sum was like 348 schools were impacted through repairs and so on, which are completed over, which I know a couple have been completed already because I saw that today. And I know pretty much at the end of this week, most schools will be all set for the reopening on Monday. So this is perhaps the first time in several years that everything runs smoothly with the school repair program. The vouchers and so on for the books and uniforms are being, dispersed as we speak. So most of the schools, students will be getting their vouchers to purchase their books and uniforms and what have you. So again, that's perhaps one of the brightest spots, and if you don't take care of the children, what's going to happen? They were neglected over all these years. And the former Minister of Education is touting the view that, the UNC has the money now, they can afford to fix the school.
Yeah. What happened to the money that they had? They didn't have no money.
All these years.
What happened to all the money they spent? They can't show no accountability up to now.
No, and the school repair program was a fallacy. It never started when school closed. It started about 2 or 3 weeks before this new term opens. In other words, you were supposed to line up your work clothes and so on let's say the school closed on the 10th of July. Well, by the 11th, you send in your crew. But no, they didn't do that. They will be sending their crew on the 15th of August, So there's no way that school repairs can be done in the 2 weeks leading up to the new semester. And that is where the money were all siphoned off. So you did 2 weeks work and get the entire, sums payable. So this is all these things transpired under the former government, and they have the audacity now to come and say, well, the UNC have the money now. Let's hope they do all these schools were supposed to be done and blah, 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 blah. And yet when they were there, very little, if any, was done in the school repair aspect. So you see, we as a population have been saddled with a lot of non-productivity. I can safely say that word. And just about all the sectors, all the ministries had the same problem. And again,
it's more than non-productivity. It's high-class wickedness
and
consideration
theft and fraud, and no accountability. So where is the paper trail for all these things? Because just before prior and post-election, a lot of shrillings were done. Typical. So where is Where is the paper trail? Where is the paper trail? And you know how Trinidad operates in missing data, missing files, missing correspondence, and so on. Even when the last AG was there, I think where he was Mr. Reginald Amo there, bloody files, entire case files were lost, misplaced. And as soon as judgment was received, suddenly they found the files back again. These kind of only in Trinidad and Tobago, my friend.
He's another character we have to deal with.
Only in TNT, and we are, this Banana Republic image. It's got to stop. We like the laughing stock in the whole Caribbean, man. It's so we look forward with high expectations for the new budget coming up at the end of the basically at the beginning of October. I really hope that at that time they can give a summarization of the monies and so on, the finances, the state of the finance of the local economy, and how much money is they have for implementing the projects which the UNC plan, because I don't know if you do not know how much money you have to spend, how can you implement things? Especially much needed promises which were made. I mean, one of the more pressing things is the public servants' arrears in back pay. How are they going to meet that if you don't know, or what your cash flow and so on is? That's one. And secondly, how we're going to fill the vacancies which the Prime Minister is talking about in the various ministries. He said there's something like 17,000.
We're seeing some developments with the oil and gas business
Yes.
that could not have taken place under Dr. Rowley. There was always Dragon Gas, and the only thing we could deal was with Venezuela, and there was no other option. And right under our nose, all of a sudden, government changed, and you're seeing these developments taking place, and the interest of outside investors
Yeah.
reoccurring.
Yeah,
You
after
know.
20 years.
So
After
what does
20
that tell
years.
you? What does that tell you right away? Right? And then Xiao Zhang have the audacity to jump up and say, he is he who make that happen. He couldn't do it in the 10 years he was there, but he made that happen.
He made the current situation.
In 4 months, we have drastic development from people getting water, the children getting their needs, the schools getting repaired. I mean, you name it.
Yes, and they wouldn't say what the real problem was, that they put all the eggs in one basket in the Dragon deal, and that was a flop. But does anybody know how much money have been paid?
Why were their heads so buried in Maduro alone? Something is very suspicious to me. Why they became so entrenched with just dealing with Maduro? Is that the best they could have do, or was it by design?
That is why, that is the question. Was it by design? Because my understanding is that we're still paying for that. We still pay a monthly figure on the Dragon Gas deal every month in US and hard currency. And here is that we're not getting any benefit, zero benefit out of it. And yet we have expenses to make payments every month. So those are the kind of deals, the white collar deals, that really bothers me more than anything else. when a few people who took no advice from the best minds in the island, make decisions on their own. The decisions they make, we put all our trust and all our assets into that one project, and it never materialized. So we in a really bad state with that respect to that. On the positive side, you find companies that were doing business with Trinidad in the oil exploration field are coming back. So that's a good sign, that at least we have some hope that should they find oil again, ExxonMobil and a lot of BP, Shell, if these two bunks, one or two good oil producing fields that we can see a turnaround in a short space of time. I don't know if you know, the oil industry is short. It takes about 7 years to bring oil from, from the exploration stage to the marketing stage. It's the 6 or 7 year process. So depending on how aggressive this thing is, and if they can score some hits in finding oil, and that can be a savior to us in the medium term. But our problem is not in the medium or long term so much. It's in the short term to meet the current shortfalls, and this is where my concern lies. As I said, yes, there were promises made on the election front that public servants starting at 10% arrears have to be met. We want to hire and fill vacancies, that has to be met. And you view that against a backdrop of lower availability of funds, less monies to go around. We into some serious belt tightening. That's the case maybe, but this is what the price which we as the population has to pay for PNM stupidity. That's the best word I can use.
Well, we have to manage the spending, and there must be accountability. We can't let it go like how they did it. We can't allow that to happen on our watch, and we have to make sure that we handle the money with precision, because there are people in desperate need out there that needs that has needs food today. They can't wait.
Correct.
Right? And
Correct.
and you and I have helped some people out there who need help this minute.
Correct.
So while we're doing that, and the government trying to sort out, and also Dr. Rambrook, has assisted tremendously with making sure some people eat, and
These things
so
go unnoticed, then they go, but we did it out of the goodness of our hearts. So
right.
congrats to all the members who have been playing there, whatever little role they can play in it, to make sure that at least the current government find its footing, so to speak. But you know what?
Right.
I
So
think
while they sorting out things, I mean, we have been very active in trying to do the best we can to make sure people eat. So there's an urgency to get this job done, to get things up and running, because of the drastic need of people out there. You know, um, while we're sorting out the CPEP and URP structure, there are people who needs to eat, and and we are very conscious of that. And I want those who listening to understand that the government hasn't forgotten you, forsake you. We're trying to sort things out. The government is trying to sort things out. Your prime minister has your best interests at heart, and we are doing everything to restructure. Those of us who are volunteering together with the government also is doing their best to make to meet the needs, to meet your needs. You know. Go ahead, Mr. Singh.
That's quite true. And, but today, University of the West opened their new semester. And next week, Monday, is 18,000 new students will be joining classes to the school system. But that has, brings its own problems. I mean, a lot of more activity will be happening, so to speak, in the school.
Our friend
Yeah.
Dr. Maharaj has joined.
Hello. Hi. How are you?
Yes, hi, Dr. Maharaj.
How are you?
Dr. Maharaj, so our special guest had a situation they had to resort to, so they will reschedule with us.
Okay, that's good enough. Okay.
Yeah, so we are addressing the U.S. shut down a drug boat
Yeah.
that was leaving Venezuela that either was heading to Trinidad or some Caribbean island, according to the Secretary of State,
Yeah.
and they light it up
Yeah.
as it left Venezuela. They light it up,
Yeah.
so he didn't make it to where it was going to go.
Yeah. He was going to
And
Trinidad. He was going to Trinidad, right?
well, it appears so.
Yeah.
I mean, because Trinidad is usually the first stop point, and then things get devoted to other places. So
Yeah.
Trinidad is usually the transshipment port,
The
Yeah.
harbor, the
of
harbor.
exchange. So I would most likely say it was heading to Trinidad, but they shut it out of the water. They light it up, and so we are seeing some results from the U.S. involvement with the improvement of the forces on the ground there. I mean, in the ocean.
Yeah.
Well, that is redounding to the land as well. As I said, I looked at the report, the crime report. There were 22 homicides in the month of August, which is the lowest in the last 9.5 years. And one wonders whether the ramping up of activities by the Southern Command, focusing specifically on narco-terrorism and that transshipment, whether that's stalled or it had a significant impact on the flow of drugs to this part of the world.
So think
Along,
about it. All where they tried to deny that the drugs wasn't coming from Venezuela, it was caught.
yeah,
You
yeah.
understand? They saw it
And
leaving Venezuela, not Colombia, not Guyana, but Venezuela.
so as we put that into the mix, the president of the Southern Command in the mix, and the state of emergency in Trinidad, probably those things have ripple effects. That's why the homicide rate was the lowest in 9.5 years, according to the statistics from the TTPS. So that's a good sign. That's a positive sign. At least something is happening on that front. So that's perhaps one of the brightest spots happening in the ground here at this point in time.
Dr. Maharaj, did you get a chance to look or you didn't see it?
No, I heard about it. I heard about
Let
it.
me run it. Let me run it for you.
Come out, and when you leave the room, you'll see that we just, over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat. And you'll be seeing that, and you'll be reading about that. It just happened moments ago, and our great general, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who's been so incredible, including what took place in Iran, knocking out potential nuclear power for a long time to come. I think within a month they would have had it if we didn't do what we did. But he gave us a little bit of a briefing. And you'll see. And there's more where that came from. We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in for a long time. And these came out of Venezuela and coming out very heavily from Venezuela. A lot of things are coming out of Venezuela. So we took it out, and you'll get to see that after this meeting is over.
is not just the country, but the entire Caribbean basin. These particular drugs were probably headed to Trinidad or some other country in the Caribbean, at which point they just contribute to the instability these countries are facing. So the president's been very clear that he's going to use the full power of America and the full might of the United States to take on and eradicate these drug cartels, no matter where they're operating from and no matter how long they've been able to act with impunity. Those days are over. This is a counter-drug operation. We're going to take on drug cartels wherever they are and wherever they're operating against the interests of the United States. The president's top obligation is to secure the national interest and the national security of our people. I know of no president that means that more than this one, our president now, President Trump. And so, but I'm not.
Yeah. He said Trinidad, yeah.
But most
Yes.
likely it was Trinidad. Trinidad is the designated transshipment point. We all know that.
But how it is some people in Trinidad denying that all to the end.
But there was all the Coast Guard boats were down, so they said they don't have money to buy diesel. But they have been down for the past 9.5 years. So put two and two together, and then you could see what transpired.
Did you see the speed of that? Did you see the speed of that boat? That
Yes,
boat in not so miles per hour. That didn't do about 60 miles per hour. Which coast vessel could catch up with him? With them?
these are the boats that every lineman outside Miami Beach, you see some of these speedboats flying up the coastline. They have like 4 big engines in the back. They're running like the Ferrari in the water.
Yeah, because even the American boats maybe couldn't catch up with them. That's why they shoot them off. They had to shoot them off because they couldn't catch up with them. The speed that boat is going, they're looking like 60 miles per hour in the sea. That's a lot of miles. So they had to shoot them down. They won't be able to catch up with them. Forget the coast, Trinidad, forget it.
That's what I was saying. I know we have an issue on the port with these scanners and stuff like that. But compared to what you see that's happening there, how long do you think it takes that boat to reach in and out of Trinidad and offload and go? So these little boats, 7 to 9 miles off the coast of Venezuela, right? Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, but your friends and the previous government would have told the Coast Guard, that's a friendly neighbor, don't shoot them. That's our friends in the neighbor of Venezuela. Don't touch them at all. They're not enemies, they're friends.
Yeah,
So
one of us. Yeah, you're right.
yeah. So I would like to know what they will be saying. Because first of all, they were denying everything before that doesn't happen, and that we in Trinidad is a very safe country, because they said the same group of people in Trinidad was saying that the current government not fighting back the American government when they said they comparing crimes of Washington DC, the crimes of Trinidad, and they said that's an unfair comparison. Unfair. But how much more does the thing DC does have? That's a fair comparison. If they go like DC, they're good. They're very good. But they were worse than DC. That is why you have to answer them. You don't answer them in a nice smile way. Look. Could I continue speaking? Because I might take about 20 minutes. I don't know.
Go ahead.
You have all the time you read. What are you worried about? You go ahead and say what you have to say.
So look at them again. They answering, but did you hear them about the day of prayer? Did you hear that nonsense they're talking about the day of prayer and how Kamala didn't show up for a day of prayer? That she called the day of prayer and she wasn't there. She was absent. You could see what they up to. They want to kill it. Oh, look, another thing. I mean, I say so many things, but here's another third one. The boy, the PRO, Kirk Megu. I mean, they want to lynch him now because they ought to get him. They ought to kill him now because I don't understand what is this Trinidad lackadaisical, slow dunderheads. The boy making an intellectual argument. Leave it in the intellectual arena. Why the press have to get down on this case and everybody and look about the PNM? Because they're not bright enough to understand what the boy is saying. The boy is making an intellectual point. All you have to take it in that realm. It belongs to the scholarly avenue. Why should someone like the 95-year-old man from Diego Martin or some of that side away from the Ferrer fellow, he jump out and start to castigate the man and say it's not the first time he has made talking out of this two sides of his mouth and the this and the that and the next. And then they're saying William wouldn't agree with that. William would agree with what? William will tell him, no, you're only messing up your whole history. He would ask them to rewrite history. So what the hell they talking about? It have none of them fellas smart in the West Indies, in the University of the West Indies, like St. Augustine, to take on that PRO, Dr. Mego. He's a very intelligent boy. He knows what he's saying. He's making you don't have to agree with him, but you're just striking. You're just strike his character. Why are you getting a demand character? Why are Adam talking about this and we represent? He doesn't. He make us. I'm sure if the guy wrote a couple books on these things, he studied this more than all of them fellas who talk in there. He studied this. You talk about Trinidad, half-baked society. He know what he's talking about. Answer him in that light. Answer him in an intellectual light. Show him where he is wrong and academically prove that he is wrong. Don't lambast him and that's from the gutter. In fact, you're from the gutter anyway. That tells me what gutter you're from. They're not. You can't take the gutter out of them. They're in the gutter and they can't take the gutter out of them because they will never liberate themselves. And the PNM is typically backwardness has been keeping them back. You know, I told you this many times. The SOE that they call was to appease the gang leaders. Because as far as they're concerned, many of them are their supporters, and therefore they don't want them to fight each other because that means less votes for them, and they care about the votes and the power. So they don't mind selling out the entire nation to ensure that the gang leaders don't get to fight each other, but calm and peace must prevail, and they must be prime minister of peace and tranquility among the gangs. The gangs that are marauding and killing people in Trinidad and taking away their belongings and their property and everything, doing every sort of thing, like or pack of crap. So these people are really framing the argument because if you notice what they're doing, I mean, you all notice it. I don't have to remind you that they that everything they're swinging back to the prime minister. So now they're making the point that the intellectual point made by Dr. Mego, it belongs to the UNC, and Kamala has to rein in the UNC people. He has to rein. She has to use the might and power to. That's an intellectual debate. That doesn't belong to nobody. That belongs to the scholarly. That is in the scholarly main, the scholarly platform. That is where it belongs. It should stay there, and you should jump in. Let somebody write a counter argument to him. That would be nice. That is what the debate is about. Showing where he's wrong factually and technically and theoretically. And make the point that then you could tell him that he must reconsider what he's saying. You don't castigate and lambast him. And that tells you what the level of conversation you are having in the press. Do you all read the press? Yeah, you read the press. You see how someone nonsense be talking? You look the NCB stuff they're talking about. None of them have answered what is going on in the NCB. Is NCB they call them? National Citizens Bank. I forget the name. Some National Corporate City Bank, yeah. National Citizens Bank, sorry. Yeah. Did you look at the kind of debate, at the low level debate that is going on? My good friend I call him my friend because we speak from the Trinidad Guardian. I mean, I expect better from a lot of them, but you know, it's only so far you can go. In the University of West Indies that's supposed to have the intellectuals, they don't saying anything, nothing. They went in today. Kariri went and signed an agreement with the credit union, the Clico Credit Union. You all know what is it about? Every one of them. If you look at Trinidad, the way they're doing things in there, even at this point in time, well, you know, this is not this is still from the past dispensation. All the graduates who are coming out of whatever institution they're coming out of, they're coming from the last institution where the previous government was. You know how they measure success? How many people did they train? You don't measure success by how much you train. How much you train might be fine. You already had too many trained people in Trinidad. It's what they do after they get their training. That is what you're going to measure. How much contribution did it make towards whatever the end objective or the goal was, or the measurement, what yardstick of measurement. Did the graduates did what they had to do when they entered into the field, whatever field they're going to. That is how you measure success. They don't measure it by number of graduates. That is a marketing ploy to get people to come to your school or institution to say you're doing something. Your measurement has to be in the end. What is the end result? And start from the end result and work backwards towards the founding, towards your learning objective and what your curriculum should have in it. So maybe the last thing I want to talk about here again is something that is bothering. Well, something has to do with. I hope Prakash could come at some night again, because I was trying to recognize that the faulty laws in Trinidad that they have, all the laws that the PNM passing year after year, they still so there's so much faults because they're passing laws that is not relevant to make their better society. So the point I would like to raise, if Prakash Ramada would get to speak with him at some point, I would like to tell them that they need to upgrade the law, the tort law, so such an incident should not go so long. 3 years later, still now you're telling them, here's $1 million each. After 3 years of separation, something is wrong with your laws in a society when you cannot deal with the civil side. You might have a lot of criminal laws, but you're not applying them. But here on the civil side, you have very little. So you allow somebody like whatever company that is to hire 4 men, and you know, 4 of them almost died. 1 of them luckily survived, and still you had to go through so much hoops to get a few dollars for your loved ones. That is wrong. So I would leave it there in the meantime and ask if Gary want to pick up on anybody want to. I don't know if I want to add one more thing, but I will. But let me hear if anybody want to add anything.
Feel free to go ahead.
Yeah.
Doing it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the point I want to make here again is the budget is coming up, and I would like to know what inputs are going into the budget that everybody is participating. I myself would like to see some things in there, but I think they have it all laid out, most likely. But there might be a few things that people who are on the ground there might be seeing some things that I am not seeing or other people are not seeing. And what I'm saying is, this is the time to speak up. Because
well, you know, there was quite a bit of budget consultation you know, together with the stand your ground. There wasn't just stand your ground consultation; it was budget discussion also.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the other night, let me just say this one more thing in the stand your ground. You know, this stand your ground law doesn't have to do with FUL alone. I think people said that too. Your stand your ground law is much broader than the FUL license and guns. Then automatically stand your ground tied to guns. It doesn't have to be only guns. You could defend your property and yourself with what we used to have long ago. We have a cutlass. We have a hammer. We have a puy stick, they call it in Trinidad, right? A puy stick. They already had it.
Saddam Hussein made that point, you know, in one of the meetings. I think he was explaining that.
Right. Okay, good. So the stand your ground laws does not talk about FUL. The PNM want to talk about FUL and stand your ground law because they're trying to evade. You know, I a million times I'm saying this. They're really trying to protect the criminals. If you look at everything they're doing and they're saying, they
Exactly
just
so.
want to protect the criminals because
Exactly so.
you cannot be a sane politician to tell me that you want to protect the criminals over the victims. They take the sides of the criminal. You could see what they're doing. You could know that they're in love with the criminals. And this is bad, and this is nasty, and this is not good. And that is why they should never see the corridors of power again, because they're all wrong and everything, even all the speeches they're giving now. If you listen to this guy talking, here's one more thing. I'm glad you give me a chance more to say this. You know that they're talking about the CARICOM and tying it to the Venezuela situation. I'm talking about CARICOM. If you listen to the PM talking point that is coming by those two mouthpieces, really, you know who they are. They're talking as though, well, you know, the UNC is so bad that the government is doing everything wrong. And here's their thing, that they had to go to CARICOM. Before Trinidad say anything, they must go to CARICOM and get permission. Please, CARICOM, can I make a statement about Venezuela and Trinidad and Tobago? The other day I told you all, they have regressed to mediocrity. Because if you ask in Trinidad to go to get permission from Antigua or St. Lucia, no, I have respect for those countries. Those are great countries, but not to the extent that Trinidad is supposed to be the leadership. What they have, Trinidad has to lead and CARICOM has to follow. You can't go and say, well, okay, before I say anything about Venezuela, let me want to talk to CARICOM. You are going down the hill by trying to go to the bottom. You're scraping the barrel when you could be up on the full barrel. You're scraping at the bottom. Trinidad has always been the leader. They didn't make Trinidad for the this is again back to this boy and this discussion that they have with Eric William thing. They didn't make Trinidad the top of the line, or the leader, or bring the capital of the West Indies in Port of Spain for nothing. Trinidad was always in leadership. It has always been. So we don't have to go down to find out what Antigua is doing. Antigua will come to find out what we are doing. So they speak to us. We don't have to go swoop down to that level that the PNM want us to do. They want us not to be exceptional, but to be the great leader in the Caribbean area. They want us to be mediocre. They want us to be average or worse, because that is what they are. They are not leaders. They are average. They're looking for numbers to make up the numbers. They're looking to make up numbers. You could make a strong argument like the government is doing, that this government is doing, taking a position that they are supporting the American government in terms of trying to stop the inflow of drugs that is I would say predominant, but seriously influencing the many transshipment into the Caribbean islands. So Trinidad government took a stance. They didn't ask, what do you think? They want the PNM want them to go to ask, what do you think? Oh, Jamaica, what do you think? Land? Oh, okay, now I see what you all thinking now. So you don't want Trinidad to be followers. They don't want Trinidad to be leaders. That is why they run them down to the ground. That is why Trinidad has gotten where they are today, is the lack of leadership and intellectual support and critical thinking that the PNM does not have. That is where they're lacking. If you listen to the conversation, you know they're lacking in these areas. They're lacking seriously in terms of how to. So they should never get, because to go back to PNM is taking Trinidad backwards, and you don't want to go back down that hill anymore. You want to rise above. And I always said that maybe another party to form should be nothing about the PNM, but somebody else maybe, and that could be better, and that will serve Trinidad better. Their days should be all numbered, and it is numbered. If they carry on like this, it will be all numbered. And the more they speak, is the more I feel to turn the other way, because they're really getting me pissed off. And believe me, I'm no committed servant of no UNC or nobody. I as a free thinker, but I want justice. I want rights. I want critical thinking skills to prevail. I want the best for we to have, and the only way we can have the best, we have a good meritocratic system. All these things they're talking about meritocratic, all of the things they're talking about putting people on board based upon party card. That crap. That is
But
that
the
is
only
that mess
critical
that has been-
people, the only critical thinking, right thinking people is in the UNC.
Yeah,
If you notice outside the UNC how the thing operates.
yeah. Because you could see right there the way Megu made his arguments and his points. None of them on the other side made those points because Megu was very critical and thinking what he's doing. He's critical in the status quo. He's asking. So they say they want to rewrite history. What do you think they wanted to do in Portsmouth when they pulled down the Columbus statue? They were writing history. What do you think they're doing about changing the Columbus Day to Emancipation Day? They're rewriting history. So what is wrong in saying that Eric Williams was not the father of the nation, but is Butler? And many people say Butler, Tubal was Butler. Some even say Cipriani, not Williams. Some even maybe George. You might call George Mix in the mix as well. Some great West Indian Trinidadian they had in the past. So what makes Eric Williams that great man? He's the father of the nation. He could be a father. It's fine with me. I don't know what they want. What they need fathers. They have enough problem with fathers in the country anyway. So why do you want another father and another mother and all kind of thing? You could handle yourself, handle your own. So if the boys making an intellectual point, it would be interesting to hear his debate and hear the other side, not to castigate him and try to pull him down and try to be ad hominem and try to say he's the second time he's committed a serious error in Trinidad. They would have lynched him on. They'll put him on a rope and lynch him. They want to lynch him in Trinidad. To lynch people who don't think like them. That is the worst form of genocide. The PNM is a genocidal party. They believe in genocide because if you want to kill people who have different thinking to you, that means you don't want the opposition. You are a dictator. And they dictate, but the party is the dictator. Because if you listen to the past prime minister they had, how he was dictating. And even the one of the finance minister, he's the Mr. Know-it-all. He knows everything and everybody else in the world is stupid. I am the only smart one we have around here. Full of himself and full of little of nothing. Has nothing, empty and vacuous.
And grab all for himself.
Oh yeah, that's the money wasn't enough for him.
He gave his son a big job. They all give relatives, and as you see in Kenali's article, how ministers were highly beneficial, or former ministers beneficial in a lot of contract situations there.
Yeah. So again, we have to keep on doing the correct thing. Like I'm saying, the policies of the current government will be transferred into the budget that is coming up, so that the priorities will have legs and the policy will have legs because they're putting money to what they're saying, and that money will be blended together with what their objectives are, and hopefully within 1 year they will that'll be milestone number 1. At the end of the second year, milestone number 2. At the end of the second year, milestone number 3, and so they're going on until milestone 20, 15, or whatever, all the way down.
I see. I think it's the information we get in is that Dr. Ali and then retained the government, president in Guyana. They retained government, so we are hoping that we can do the same thing.
Today's the election in Guyana.
Yeah.
So far they're in the lead of with the results.
Yeah. They're in the lead, right? No, they're supposed to continue because
the result came back, as they won, but let's see everything finalized.
Yeah, because they have boating coming from all the way across the river and they up the channel up there, on the back of dam, they come from all the way across. So it'll take a little while. But they're supposed to continue because the boy did a pretty good job. He's quite vocal and he's well liked, and we should get a second term and even more. I don't know, but if he wins again, that should not be a surprise. Yeah. Well, about UNC, we'll have to wait and see. We got a lot of work to do, though. So that's why we're talking like we are. That's why we're talking tonight, because we know they have a lot of work to do. And I hope that we can, whatever help we can give also. But we doing it. We don't want them to do nonsense. No, we're not like a PNM people who pat them on the shoulder when they do things. We'll call them out. So far, they're excellent. They're doing pretty good, and they have to continue going.
Our government ministers are working very
I said,
hard.
I-
I mean, 7 days a week, they're working late hours, consistently.
yeah, yeah. And you see, that strategy you see they're using, everything bad tied back to Kamla because the nation is behind Kamla. So if you
Well,
could,
the government stands on Kamala's shoulders. The government stands on her. The people came out because of her.
right, and that is why the PNM is attacking her so much because that is you see, normally what they will go after 1, 2, 3, 4, and then come to her. Then they will circle her around. That's what they did the last time. They circle her around and then get to her in the end. What they're doing this time is not circling. They're coming straight to her. Everything happens, they're pointing back to Kamala, then back to the backlash list, blaming list. Nobody else they're calling, only one person. Nobody else.
Yeah.
Everything they come back, Kamala is their fault. Even today when they said that Cook may go at an intellectual point, Kamala should rein him in. When he goes to the intellectual arena, he doesn't belong to anybody again. The only way you can respond is go back into the intellectual arena. When it gets to that level of discussion and debate, you have to go back and answer them in that arena. That's a different arena. That is not in the arena that PNM could play in. They don't know how to play in that arena. That belongs to the intellectual fellows, the University of the West Indies, all the intellectuals around who have pros and cons of those kinds of issues. They could start framing the debate. Is William really the father of the nation, or was he the prime minister in 1962 when we became independent? Because we had a prime minister named Sir Grantley Adams before that. He won the election. Why do PNM do like to remember that? Because they lost that election. They lost the election in 1958. And that is why they don't want no federation again. Because they go back into the federation and lose again. So they want to come out of the damn thing. So I tell Sean Megu is making that point too. That the reason why they don't want no federation is because in the federation, the PNM was losing power. The DLP beat them. So they couldn't take a BN. When they couldn't win the election, they said the next time, 1961, we'll bring the voting machine. So the voting machine began helping them. And then it became 2-1. DLP get 10 and them get 20. Right through around every year, every election is the same thing. Even when you go to the county council election, PNM winning by 100%, by 50%, 100%. They're doubling them up. Until when they move out the voting machine, then we start to get a little more representative of what the people really doing. And it takes a little while to work on the voting machine. That because voter apathy had already entered, and the people in Trinidad were frustrated with the whole system of government. So in the election day, like myself, I go to drink something. They give me 2 hours out of vote, but I go and drink rum instead. And some friends will go online with a friend and so on and so on and so on. So we never really exercise any franchise. Why are you going to vote? The vote already rigged. Why am I going to vote? I go to the rum shop and buy a couple of beans with friends and we drink rum. And that's how the PNM had us in those days. So instead of I going to vote, because they're killing me at the voting booth. I was in Chinchin Road, government school. 9 o'clock, a man came to vote and the voting machine went down. And he came back in the afternoon after he finished work. He got to come home from work. He went to vote again. The machine's still down. So what is he doing? And used to send the bad election voting machines in the DLP area. And the good ones they send in. So when they come, they're rigging on one hand, and the other hand they send the gerrymandering. They were number one in gerrymanders. You know that, right? And when they couldn't gerrymander anymore, then they started to use the voting machine. Well, the voting machine fixed the Trinidad people good. It was the only country in the world, and the South and Mississippi and those black areas, they were using the voting machines in those areas and Trinidad. Nobody else was using that anymore in the world again. I don't know who else. I doubt. I never heard about anybody. Even America didn't want the voting machine. But they want Eric William wanted it. He came out of Sir George William, of Howard University. A traditional black, a pretty good school. But he came out of black studies as well, in American. So So they were the downtrodden here. They send the old rotten voting machine in the black areas, which is breakdown from there, from our one, and that's what he did with Caroni and Naparima and I don't know, Shogunas, Kuva, and those places. So the election was already determined before the results, 20 to 10. Done. That never happened again though. The last time we know when election really became really fair and a good fight happened is with 1986. And since that, they have so many rotten things to say about opposition people, about Trinidad and this and that and there. You listen to them really? You all listen to you had to listen to what they say, to hear the crap. I mean, it's kind of hard to take some of the nonsense they're talking, but you got to listen to your enemies. Well, I wouldn't call them enemy. You got to listen to the opposition. I mean, they are the opposition. You got to listen to what they're saying. It's part of what we do. We listen to all sides. I like to hear what they're saying.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the kind of things they've done to the people in Trinidad, they're more of an enemy than an opposition.
Yeah.
That is my perspective.
A double whammy. Yeah. Double whammy.
They're not only an enemy of the UNC, they're enemy of the people for the kind of things that they have done to the people.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, you was talking. I don't like to dig into much into the malfeasance and the ratch that they did. But I always said that if there's wrongdoing, don't let it get it.
Why not? Bring it out. You have the facts. Bring it out.
But I don't want to spend too much time looking for all those things when I maybe have more important things to do. So that's the point I'm making. But if you look at what back to the NCB thing again, the National Citizens Bank. I mean, the government have 60% of
it's First Citizen Bank now.
First Citizen Bank, right? The government has 60%, and then the NIB had about 18%. So they had a good control over it. Okay, so the guy named Lenny Sate, who unfortunately died recently, not long ago, and then they found out they write off some. They're now squealing and telling us that they wrote off some whatever million he had that he took with the NCB. But why? I would like to know what was the agreement on the loan when he signed the dotted line. What was the collateral he put up for this, and was it exhausted, or did they put up any collateral, or was the collateral reliable enough, or the collateral was it really? Because you could say you have X, Y, and Z, and really you don't have no X, Y, you don't have nothing. You don't even have X, and you don't have even Y, and maybe you might have Z if you have any. So, what was the collateral put up for the loan? Because the bank had to be above reproach when dealing with savings of the customers, because that money belonged to the customers, and a little 5, 8, maybe 18% belonged to the shareholders. The rest of the money they're using people money to lend it out and hopefully get it back. So for they to take their cash and write off $13 million, that had to come from somewhere. I would like to know who collateral, whose capital that came from. It shouldn't be the customer savings. It should be some kind of a write-off on the debt, unpaid debt. They have a write-off. They have I think they have a 3 or 4% on put aside for bad debt. So that 3-4% could cover much more, many millions. Because if they have, income of 400 million a year, writing up 30 or 15 million is not much. You write it off from the income for the net income after tax. We don't know. I mean, before the fellas I'm talking about trying to defend, before they try to go back, put on your thinking, put on your financial cap and look at go into the numbers and go behind the scene and see what is really going on. Give me all the books. I'll check it for them. I was looking at it last week, a few days back. I was looking at to see What else come? I see they had pretty good numbers. They have good coverage ratio and they were pretty good. But most banks in Trinidad were doing well anyway, still doing well. So if the NCB is doing well, that is not strange. Because all banks are doing well. There's no bank who are on the verge of failure in the bad time. So we don't expect their government bank to be doing bad either. Because everybody doing good and the government bank which is doing worse is still doing okay. So you won't compare the profit that they've been showing Republic or Scotiabank, the kind of profit they are showing compared to the profit showing in NCB. I call it wrong NCB, but you know what I mean. Citizen Bank. I think that's it. I think that's the correct NCB. That's correct.
First Citizen Bank,
Yeah.
FCB. First
Oh,
Citizen Bank.
FCB. First Citizen Bank. I forgot the first part. I know why it's first, they had more first before that. Yeah, the first, and I hope it's not the last. If you follow them, it will be the last because they'll be writing off 30 million here. We don't know how much else they will write off in the future. Because they had no accountability. Yeah, I mean, could you tell? I think we talked about this already, but I couldn't believe when I heard that some state corporation, some state company books wasn't audited since 2013.
No, it's
What?
Caribbean Airlines was the name of the company.
Oh boy. I depend on the audited financial statements to tell me about a company. If I don't have that, I cannot do anything. I cannot give any valuation of a company. I could, but it would not be so great. I need the audited financial statements. And if 12 years gone, your company, you should be dead. That should be dead. That company should still exist. And they keep putting money into Caribbean Airlines. Not because the company couldn't do better. They could do better, but they have the wrong kind of people in it, number one. Number two, the model is not built for profitability. Number three, you have to take some harsh decision, such as asking the employees to put a little more out, such as cutting costs here and cutting costs there. Such as customer promote. I'm sure they have people. They should be telling me how to do it. They spend years and years upon. I mean, I ride Caribbean Airlines sometimes. I know. No, they're pretty good. I mean, they're pretty good people on there. They're friendly enough. But that alone would not be enough. There's something else you have to do to ensure that you compete with the competitors. I don't know why you couldn't have you're talking about, your friends talking about CARICOM. What about the CARICOM again? Your friends are not talking about CARICOM all the time. Oh, CARICOM this and CARICOM. Yeah, they're all great. Yeah, nice. Why CARICOM, 100% of them doesn't support BWI, Caribbean Airlines? Only at one point, only Guyana was supporting them because we had trips to Guyana and Trinidad equally. They fly the same amount of flights to Guyana. It was almost the same amount to Trinidad. Almost the same amount to Guyana. But then, how much Jamaicans used to run? Not many. I don't know if they never advertised in Jamaica or anything, but Jamaica wanted their own airlines, which I think they have now. Never mind the Jamaica Airlines went down some 5, 6, 7 years ago. So you want CARICOM, but CARICOM doesn't. You give more than CARICOM gave you. In the past, you used to give them oil at a cheaper price than anybody else. I see Venezuela was doing it. I think that's why some of them like Venezuela. I don't think they do it anymore because the American government tell them if you're doing that, dealing with them, you can't deal with us. So America was very tough on them. So they kind of let Maduro. They kind of slack off Maduro a little bit. But America won't take that lightly. This guy is going to. You see why they call in Trinidad there? Look at it. Look out. They hate the other countries, but they better do. Or else it wouldn't cost them nothing much to tell them, no tourists going there. You see, when Trinidad got that name about the DC comparison, why did J.D. Vance use Trinidad to compare to Washington, D.C.? Because the State Department was telling him that out of all the islands in the Caribbean, the most dangerous one is Trinidad. So this was being fed to the State Department. The J.D. Vance doesn't do no research about Trinidad. So the State Department gave it back. Say, give me a bad country in the Caribbean that have a lot of crime and I could use as a reference to EC Tobago and say, you want a good one? Trinidad and Tobago is the best one. That's a good one. So use that one. So they use it because that is what came out of that the J.D. Vance didn't hear it from Kamala. This came out of the State Department because they would have run this by J.D. Vance would have get this out of them before he mentioned that. Give me a bad country for crime in the West Indies. Oh, Trinidad and Tobago, you can't beat them for crime at all. They're the best. Okay, good. We will use that and compare to DC then. So what's so irrational about that? Am I making sense? You all heard this thing before? No, I don't think so. Run these numbers. Trinidad is number one in terms of bad liquor. Let me take DC and compare to the worst of them, another a-hole country. Although they didn't call that one a a-hole country, but that's what that's what they meant. That's another a-hole country. And they could have said, so why should Kamala come and tell them, well, look, that used to be another PNM, but now we're doing better now. That is irrelevant. The point is that the cast, the die is already cast for the whole year. The UNC just coming. We know it belongs to the PNM anyway. And if you ask anybody, they would in the Caribbean ask anybody, they will say, well, surely that is not the UNC fault because they just came for about 3 months now. Crime doesn't happen overnight. It's a long building thing. This doesn't belong to the UNC. No one has to spell that out. If PNM, the UNC could have made dotation stupid at them and like the PNM would have made that kind of argument because that's the cheapness in them. They would have made that kind of argument. But the UNC is not making that argument. If inference were made, that was the most they might get to some inference. But they're not going to say, well, we took over and it was the PNM fault. You're going to the public and make that kind of argument. You still a Trinidad because it's still your country. Whether the PNM run it or UNC run, whoever it is, it's still your country. But the PNM will sell the country for the PNM. And that is why they're bad for Trinidad. And that is what they keep on hammering all over. And that is why you see that the Trinidad people, you have to be talking to the Trinidad people night after night, day after day. And they're smart. Trinidad people are smart, they know. I mean, sometimes they lose their little cool and they get frustrated and do stupid things. But when rubber hits the road, Trinidad people are pretty smart people. They're educated people. They may not be very, very wise, but they're educated. Yeah, there's a difference. I think you know that, right? Yeah, educated people and smart people may not be the same. Right, Sammy Sosa? Right, Cement? Nobody here? Anybody here again? What the hell? Yeah.
I'm here. Yeah, listen to you like somebody like you fall asleep there.
Maybe. Yeah, I thought you were reading, but maybe not. Yeah, so that is the reference that they made. Give me a country that has crime, so I could come, and so I could pull DC down to that level, and they say, Trinidad and Tobago. That's the one. So they use Trinidad and Tobago. So the PNM want to kill the UNC for not defending the bad behavior of Trinidad government in the past. They want to kill them. That's what they want to kill them for, that they didn't come out and shout out and defend the PNM. But they're saying they defend the country. It's not the country. We know that the crime in the country is not because the country took it the way it was. Crime in the country is because your people, look, your government first priority is to protect its citizens. And if you cannot do that, that is the first ground for you to take cop out. Retire yourself. Tell them, look, I cannot run this country anymore because I can't protect my citizens. I would like somebody to take over. And that'll be fine. You might have somebody will come up and like that the UNC had to go through and fight you down to take it away from you. You can make it much more easy and surrender to them. Because you have nothing. You had nothing. You're bankrupt. You reached to the end. You couldn't do anything more. You're making friends with the gang leaders and who making money out of this whole thing. on even the criminal elements of society, not only gang leaders, but elements who are not productive, who are who are preying on society, preying on society, and they are living of the innocent citizens who are trying to make something better themselves. You're trying to rob and rape and take away what they have. So all these savings you have, suddenly one night somebody invade your property with 6 guys, and 6 of them come. It's not 1 or 2 coming, it's 6 of them. That is war. The people, the criminal elements have declared war on the population, and the PNM want to make friends with the criminals, with the criminals enterprises. You cannot do that. You cannot be friendly with the people. You cannot be a pro-people government and want to be friendly with the people who are preying in society. They're robbing off the people of the savings of their life worth. Why am I living if you have to take it? When I save my money, you come take it away. Overnight, you'll come take it away from me. Why should I have a business when you go rob me come into my business and hold me up and take away everything I have? I'm already paying tax anyway. I'm paying tax. I'm paying to some of the people who are robbing me they might be getting subsidized. We have the subsidized food card, food stamps. And then they will come and rob me also. I'm paying twice. I paid from a shop when I have one, and then I pay in tax. So I'm paying twice. That's the kind of society you have. You have to clean it up. It can't be like this. You should be ashamed that they had to look for a low life comparison, that they had to use Trinidad as a low life comparison. This is unbecoming of the decent people in Trinidad. And somebody responsible for this, they had to be ashamed of themselves. They should never be called Trinidadians anymore. And you want to be government, you want to hold government? No. You disqualify yourself automatically. You're out there, clean. Get somebody new. Get somebody different. Let's see until another party comes up and get rid of the PNM. And we can have a second choice. Not the PNM. Anybody but the PNM. You can leave it like that because they have done too many too many bad things in society. Okay, take over now.
Yeah, so we could have another opposition other than the PNM, but
Yes.
the PNM must go completely. They must disintegrate.
Yes. Yeah.
We must make sure. But this Darius guy, he's a guy on a race agenda. Everything is race for him. He spins everything into race. As far as he's concerned, UNC is racist, and even though UNC is trying, he never stood up against the PNM in the way that he should have. For the people that suffering, and the reason why they fell into crime and criminal activities was a matter of some people didn't do it by choice. Some people fell into crime because of need. They didn't see any option. We're trying to create options to the people, not one option, but options where you could build yourself. The Prime Minister is trying to put the necessary structure in place from all levels so that you can build your life and become successful, and not get involved in criminal activity. Where the PNM left you no alternative because they ran away with the money. And they leave you to fend for yourself. And then they point the finger and say, that other guy, UNC ran away with the money, so go rob them. You understand? That's the mentality. UNC rob. Last time Pandey was in government, I was kidnapping start. We ran away with the money. The little stint that we was in government, we whole generation ran away with the money. So that's how they operated. So, but all that misinformation and hate, and they're still trying to reignite that kind of thing and say, well, you see, all they get nothing because the Prime Minister is trying to restructure that CPET thing, but she's trying to build more structure into it. You see, all they have nothing now. Everybody wins and everybody has nothing now. So they're trying to spin this in any which way that they can cause detention and cause the people to lose patience, not bring into attention that 80% of the money was sucked up and didn't benefit those who were working in CPET and URP. It didn't benefit them. The bulk of the money didn't come to those people. It went to people who was never even on the job. And we must keep singing that, just like all them just keep singing their own truth. Most of the people that got the bulk of the money never showed up on the job. They were on the payroll, but they wasn't on the job.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So anyway, we will close up for the night, and we'll let you know about tomorrow if
Let me
we
just
get anybody
let me
else.
let me just make the last point. We close it by 10, before 10.
Yeah. As long as you have something, you keep
Let
going.
me,
You know, that's
this last point, which I don't know if you heard or didn't hear, but let me. Like the Tonopuna Corporation, I forget what the region they call them or what corporation they call them, and the Port of Spain Corporation. They both had some kind of event, for the celebration of August the 31st. Unless they can raise their own money, which I think they should have done, to have their own, but that the funds that they use to have this celebration should not come from the federal government, but from their own, whatever funds they have raised. It has to be raised, and the government, they should not be using federal funds to do the project, since the government already, the state government already said that they not have any function this year. If anybody wants to have it, that's up to them, but they should not depend on state funds to have their party and have their celebration. So I hope that regional corporation in Tonopuna, who have something in the Eddie Hart grounds, that the money they were using doesn't belong, they was not from the coffers of the central government, but from their own coffers, which they would have raised from individuals in the society, would have gotten donations, and that is what I hope they should have done. And I don't know if they didn't do it, but if they didn't do it, the next time they come around for money, you have to ask them, because you'll tell them, well, last time you misused it. And they're going to make a lot of fuss about it, but you have to tell them like it is. There's nothing wrong in having a celebration, but you have to raise your own funds. Simple.
Doc, you know the history of some people that's concerned about wine and jam for one day, and the rest of the year the children could starve, and the wife could have no food for the children, and she had to fend fish away. But as long as you have a good time, right?
You saw we had a wine and dine up here in New York. You saw that the wine and dine there. They sent the video for you. That wine and dine here was done. Not the politicians came. Nobody gave us money, and this money was our money that we used to celebrate independence. We didn't depend on a penny from anybody else, and people we had food to eat. They had alcohol, but that was on a family basis. But they had lots of food and lots of drinks across the border. There were over 400 people there for sure, even more. They were going to scatter in the parks. They were looking like small, but they scattered all over. So we didn't get a cent from it. So I'm saying that if we do that here, the Port of Spain City Corporation have done the same thing. The Tonopuna, whoever again did it, raise their own funds and have their own celebration, and do not use taxpayers' funds to have that kind of celebration. Follow what we did. Follow what other people were doing. They did the same in Toronto. They did the same in England. They did. I'm sure Miami has had something down Fort Lauderdale. There's usually a West Indian community down there. They must have had something there too. Everywhere they had celebration for independence. Nobody gave them money. They had it on their own by themselves. So I don't
the people come together, the business people, the community comes together, and they do their thing.
Why PNM people must want government money to have their own celebration? They're accustomed doing it, and they still want to do it, and they want to. The opposition want to win. You see, but opposition they want to win, and in government they want to win. They always want to win. They want to win everywhere. It's only the UNC when everybody wins, and the PNM when they lose, they want to win, and everybody had to win together with them too. Because them, as far as concerned,
we are prioritizing the money, because they are, like I said, the money has to go to people that is things that are more critical in need. We have a lot of people that is in desperate need. We have a lot of healthcare situation. We have to make sure the schools are repaired.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of things that's taking priority on them, Mrs. Litesa. So she's not going to allow money to spend a helter skelter. And she's prioritizing the money So it goes to the people that need it the most first.
Hmm.
That's where it's going to go. It's going to need to the people that need the money first.
Hmm. So if you're seeing they say that the government fixed and repaired 384 schools, I'm sure all schools were not repaired that needed repair. I'm sure they couldn't get to it, but 384 is a big jump from zero. So if somebody didn't get a school fixed as yet, you gotta wait for the turn the next time around. I'm sure if there are 800 schools and you do only 384, there must be another couple hundred again that you didn't get to yet, right?
Not only that, we are adding police to the schools that is going to need it the most endangered area. You know,
Of course,
so
that
we
is
are adding police.
yeah. So if
So
your
that's
school,
an expense, and the laptop is back. All the laptops are going to the kids for free.
yeah,
Books, the book grants. The kids are getting the book grants, and there are also people who are also helping. You know,
yeah,
and that's not just the government. There are people who are helping donate to make sure that these kids get their their books and stuff like that. A lot of private people are donating.
yeah.
You know,
Because I'm
and
sure
there's
they could find some school somewhere in the back of Morvan, somewhere up in back of Morvan, maybe, and find a school that the windows were broken and the UNC didn't fix it, and they will make a big thing about, oh, it's not a UNC area, that's why, and everybody way. So that crap that will happen. You still have to,
or they break the window too and make sure they
yeah,
go
or even
that
that,
way.
yeah, no, just a broken window. We will show that anyway, and the press will run with it. The press will run with that, sure.
Yeah. Well, that is why we are here. We are here to counterattack them.
Yeah. So we'll talk again. Good night to everybody.
Yeah, Suma, do you have anything to say?
Just listening, and Doc covered most of the things, and
Yeah, there's some
prior
other
to
things
that,
that we want to cover, but yeah.
yeah. So let's see and hope the contributions to the budget is ongoing. The various communities in and around, they have discussions on it and so on. So that's a nice move.
Okay.
And we look forward to see what the budget is going to bring for us and how it tackles the current, growth poles which were identified as development tools. So let's see how that goes.
Mm-hmm. All right. Good night.
Good night, Doc. Take care,
Good night,
Gary.
everybody. Thank you for joining. We'll probably be on. If you guys are available tomorrow night, let me know. All right.
Bye now.
All
All
right.
right. Are we? All right then. Okay. Thanks. Good night,
Take it.
everybody. Thank you for
Good
taking the
night.
time. Nadira, Raj Kumar, Lindsay, Bass, and all our listening. Let's see here who else is here. All our listening audience. I want to thank you for taking the time and say good night to everyone.